Okay, that's what I'm calling my own, which is Introduction to Pandas. Okay, so our aim for this class, our goal for this class is to understand what Pandas is, how to make use of Pandas. Okay, like I told us yesterday, Python comes with different modules or libraries. Okay, and Pandas is one of them. All right, so each particular module or library performs a specific task, and in the case of Pandas, is designed for data analysis and data manipulation explicitly. Okay, it's also built on top of NumPy. Okay, so which is a library we would also briefly look at. Okay, we're not going to go in depth into NumPy, but briefly, while working on Pandas, we see some relevant things we need to. Now, being a library means there are so many things that has been pre-written already that we may not have knowledge of, but we can get access to them from the documentation. So every or most third-party libraries have a documented website, okay? A website or a place where you go to and you can see what each of these components or function or class is doing, basically. Okay, so we'll start by just briefly Pandas and then dropping our introduction. Okay, so this is tiny, so I need to make it bigger. Okay, so let's increase this. Start. So Pandas is basically what? An open source library. Okay, this will serve as our definition for now. It's basically what? An open source Python library designed for data analysis and what? Data manipulation. It provides a powerful and flexible data structure, primarily the data frame and data series, or data frame and series precisely, okay, which may make working with structured data both intuitive and efficient. Simply put, makes our life a whole lot easier. Okay, makes our life a whole lot easier. So the next thing we're going to talk about are the features. Okay, features. Another way to call these features are like data types, okay, or data structures to be more precise. Okay, so features or Pandas features. Okay. Then the first one we're looking at is the data structure. Let's type data structure, which is majorly made up of what? Okay, this should be here so that this makes sense. Okay. This is primarily made up of data type, or data frame. Let me start with series, the basic one. Series, okay, and data what? Frame. Okay, so now we'll explain what each of them are in simplicity. I'm just making a simple note so that each time you look at this, you can have a simple definition. Okay. So all right, so the first feature of Pandas is the data structure, which is basically our series a one-dimensional labeled array, okay, capable of holding any data type. So think of it as a list. Our list in square brackets, but this time around it's labeled. Okay, labeled. Remember our list we are indexed. Okay, we had indexes in our list 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this time around we're using label instead of what? Index. So visualize them as the same way you visualize a normal list in a diction in plain Python. Okay, think of it the same way, but it's not necessarily the same, but think of it the same way. All right. Then we have data frames, which are what? Two-dimensional labeled data structure with columns, okay, of potential different types, okay, similar to a spreadsheet or what? SQL table. So basically, what this is telling us is that two dimensionals, majorly what made up of what? Columns, okay, and I will also add the word rows. All right. So what? Essentially, each column has its own record, and stacked together, each of those records forms what? The rows rather. Okay. Each of the record itself, the column names forms the stack of data. Okay, 1, 2, 3 dimensions. Okay, then the data inside of them, right, forms the rows, just like an Excel sheet, typically like an Excel sheet. Okay, so that's the way it will look like. Then the next thing we can do outside this would be data inputs. We can input data / output data. Okay, then basically we will see how to read or include data from other sources, okay, into our pandas frame. Okay, then this is now where it shines precisely: data cleaning and what? And pre-processing. So at this point is also here it shines. Okay, so it allows us to remove duplicates, allows us to handle missing values, transform data types into different formats. Okay, so then perform different operations like sorting, joins, reshaping of data, and the rest of them. Okay, so that will be like data manipulation, which is the last one. Okay, so data manipulation, the last one. All right, so that is that. So this is what we need to know as our basics for starting what? Our pandas. Okay, so it allows us to do what? These basic stuffs. So the next question that arises is what? Why are we not using pandas? Okay. So the next thing we need to tackle is why are we not using pandas? Basically, these are some things that you can read up, and but let's just talk about them briefly. Why pandas? And allows us for big data analysis. All right. And make conclusions based on our statistical theories. And that can clean messy data sets and make them readable and relevant. Okay, so then it's basically easy to use as well, and that is one of the reasons why I like it myself. Okay. So now that we are done with majorly the simple stuff, the definition and all those stuff, we can now start going into our programming. Okay. So by default, I'm supposed to write a command to install pandas. Okay. By default, I'm supposed to write a command to install pandas, but I won't be doing that since I'm using Anaconda, which has Jupyter Notebook. Okay. So I'm running from Anaconda. So all these things are already installed by default. So we'll start by writing the very first command, which is what? To import pandas. Now the import statement or clause, okay, or keyword, allows us to do what? Bring in modules that we don't necessarily have available in our environment by default. Okay, and import already existing or pre-written modules or pre-written files. Let me start with the word files. Okay, so if I have another file somewhere, I can bring it in. If I have another class somewhere, I can bring it in. So that is what the import does for us. Okay, so basically saying import pandas. Okay, then the next thing is to start working with pandas. So to do that, I'm going to create a simple basic dictionary. Okay, we know we've done dictionaries now. Okay, so I'll create a very simple basic dictionary, which I will use for what? Creating my data. Okay, so I'll call this as cars. Okay, and I'll have a list of what? Values. Okay, BMW or BMW. Okay, then I'll have Volvo. Then I'll have Ford. Then I'll have, okay, passing. Okay, just a simple data set, or let's just call it rating. Of passing, let's call it rating, so it makes sense. Okay, another list. This time I'll have 3, 4, 5, right? So that will be all, and then I will now create another variable, okay, which I'll call var1, and what I'm going to say is pandas dot, okay, data frame all right, and I'll pass in what? Data set. Basically what I'm doing now is to convert this dictionary into a data frame, into a pandas data frame. So I'll go ahead and what? Print view var1, right? So what I just basically did is to convert this into a pandas what? Data frame. Okay, that's as simple as the code is. Right. So go ahead and execute it, and then hopefully I should get something looking like this. Okay, so when you click on the run button or the play button, it should give you something looking like this. So that is our data frame. Columns, made up of columns, and each of the records are now forming what? Our rows. So we have the car column, we have the rating column. Okay, so that's basically how we import Okay, so I'll proceed. The next thing we're going to do is to start looking at the structure for what pandas. We just saw one, okay? Well, let's start from the one-dimensional one and proceed to the two-dimensional structures. So pandas series. All right. And again, I don't need to import this every time, but I don't want to keep writing pandas. That's way too long. Okay, so I want to shorten it, so I'm import it one more time now and shorten it with our alias as PD, which is what you will see in most people's code. Okay, that's the short form. It can be anything actually, but PD has become like the generally accepted one everybody's using. Okay, so then I can now move ahead. Remember that this series is like a Python list basically, so I can just use a simple list to demonstrate what we are about to do. Okay. So instead of now saying pandas dot, okay, I'm now saying pd dot, okay. Then I'm passing in what? L, okay. So again, I can proceed and print what? var2, and it should give me what? Now, generally, our list looks like this generally, right? Okay, that is what our list looks like normally. But since it's a series, okay, and it's basically from representing one-dimensional arrays, okay, so it's basically turning it this way vertically or horizontally, okay, turning it horizontally this way. Then our indexes are now printed out for us to see. So this is 0, 1, 2, basically the way it was before. But now we can now see it visually. If I was telling that, just know that this starts from 0, this starts from that. But now you can now see it visually. So think of it in that same way. That is what a series looks like. Okay. Then since this is a series that looks like, it has the same behavior as a list, meaning we can access it the same way, almost the same way, even though it's the same way, almost the same way. Okay. So we start with getting the first index, or which is now called what? Label. Remember, the index are now called what? Labels. Okay. So to get the first label, okay, I'll accessing labels. Okay. So that would be like var2 square brackets, right? 0. Okay, so to print it all out for me to see it. Okay, so that will give me book basically. So it's similar to what we did with our list basically. Alright, it's similar to what we did with our list basically. So I'll proceed into what? Let's say we don't want to go with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to actually come up with values for our labels rather. Okay, values for our labels. How would we do that? We want to create our own values now. We don't want to use the 0, 1, 2, 3 that was given to us by default. Okay, so we can create labels. Okay, and for us to do that, I would be creating a is equals to, okay, and this time around I'll be going with 1, 2, 3, or let's make it 10, 20, 30, right? Then the labels, all right, I'll now give the label, which is another list. This will now be red, okay, green, and I think this should be like black. Okay, so all right. That's then I'm going to print var3. Okay, and now var3 should not have what? Red, green, black attached to the what? Instead of 1, 2, 3 or 0, 1, 2, 3. Now has red, green, black attached to our series. Okay, so let's say we want to access using our newly created labels. All I just have to do is to put the label name like would in a dictionary. Okay, so just like we would do normally in a dictionary, basically the same thing. So if you're done with this, the next thing we're going to look at is the data frame itself. Okay, data frame itself. So move ahead to working with the pandas data frame. Okay. Then we'll start by creating a very simple data frame, just like we saw in the beginning here. It is something similar to this. Okay, something very similar to this. So we'll start by defining our data. Okay, which is equals to a dictionary. Okay, no, by default, in reality, we won't be doing all these things. So if we are working with a data, we won't be the ones creating data like this. Okay, it's because like we're just starting. Okay, so in reality, we won't be creating all these things. This is time consuming, but I just start with this for now. Okay. Okay. And the next one I'm adding is age. Okay. Okay. The next one I'm adding is the address. And for address, that's going to be putting okay. And the last thing I'm adding is qualifications. Okay, so now to create our data frame, PD. We know we are using PD now because of what? We imported our pandas as what? PD. Okay, so that's why we're using PD again. So PD dot data frame. Okay, and then print df. Okay, so that is basically that. Okay, so this is us creating a data frame. As simple as that. Now we would try to do the same thing that we did before. Okay. Start by trying to access each of the row, the columns, or each of the rows, as the case may be. Okay. So by default, when we did df square bracket 0, okay, that wasn't df actually, it was var2 square bracket 0. We are able to get book returned to us. So let's see what will happen if I do df bracket 0. Let's see if we get anything back, or if we have an error. Okay, it's most likely going to give us an error. Okay, and then we'll see the right way of achieving this. I don't know why it's taking too much time. But ideally, you can't really do df square bracket 0 for data frames. Okay, so it wouldn't really work that way. Okay, so key error. Now, if I'm putting a square bracket like this, okay, where I'm mostly referring to is not the column, it's not the rows, but the column. Okay, for data frames. Whenever I'm using a square bracket like this, I'm mostly referring to the column names instead of what? The row names for data frames. Okay, whereas when I was looking at the series, the labels or the index is what I refer to in the square bracket, which is more like what we're expecting. Okay, so for us to actually get the value we needed, I needed to put dot locate square bracket. Okay, dot locate square bracket. Now this gave me what the value I wanted to get. So this is how I assess. Okay, assessing rows in data frame. Okay, so this is how I assess a row in the data frame, basically by putting this dot locate or dot log. All right, dot log. Okay, so that will be how to assess a row. I can also do print df dot ilocate, I suppose. Now this is called integer location, or index location, I suppose. Not integer, index location. I suppose that should be the right word. Index location. Okay, index location. So, but let's see. Okay, basically the same thing, giving me the same kind of value. Okay, so this works, but one is index location, which only works with index. So this one only works with zeros. I can use letters here if here BS letters. Okay, I can use letters here if here BS letters. So for easy accessibility, this is the easiest one to go with. Okay, use this when you're not sure of when you want to work with only numbers, basically. So that's that. Now, like I said, df square bracket only gives us access to the what? To the column names. Okay, so I want to print df square bracket, okay, name. Okay, df square bracket what? Name. This returns only the name column to me. So when I get a single column from a data frame, I'm returning a series, basically. Okay, when I get a single column from the data frame, I'm returning what? A series, basically. Okay, so let's say we want to get more than one column returned. Okay, then normally in what's it called, list, I would put a column in between them and then put the ending what range or the ending index. But over here I can't do such. I actually have to use two square brackets so I can get what more than one column returned at a time. Okay, more than one column returned what? Let's say I also want to return the name and the qualification. Okay, so this should just give me the name and the qualification. Okay, so that is that. Name, qualification. Okay. Okay, so another thing we're going to look at is, let's say we want to change our index again from 0, 1, 2, 3, or labels from 0, 1, 2, 3 to another kind of label. Okay, I'll basically just copy what I have over here so that I don't repeat myself. Okay, I think I'll copy everything short so that I just add one line. Yeah, I'll paste it over here. So all I need to do is to define my label. Okay. and I'll put a list. Since there are 4 records, I suppose, so I need four labels. Okay, so for simplicity, I'll just go with A, B, C, D. Okay, and then inside of here, I would put index and equate it to what? Label. So just like we did in our classes and also in functions, remember when we are doing something similar to this, okay, where we could specify the name and put it in. Okay, that's basically what we're doing. Okay. I think I'm trying to put it without this. Let me see. I'll put it without this. Okay. So I can actually put it without that. Alright, so I just remember so since we change this to letters, we can actually try and use those two access values again. Okay, dot locate, and I'll put A. Right, then I'll do the other one. Let's just do this one first, and then I'll do df dot ilocate, and I'll put A. Now this should give me an error. Like I said, it only allows us to use what? Numbers, integers to be precise. Okay, so if I put back 0, it still works. Okay, so that's the difference between the two of them. This one allows us to use whatever the label is, while this one sticks to what? The I locate sticks to integers, to index location or integer location. Okay. So from now we'll be looking at how to load data. We've learned how to work with simple data. We are moving over to working with external data resources, not these ones we are creating ourselves. Okay, we'll start loading our data, reading data, and all those stuff. Okay, so it should be down. Okay. So for me to actually load data, I think I have to send the data across to us. Okay, but we'll start with the very simple data that we normally used to work with, and we proceed from there. So we have a very good function known as pd.read underscore CSV. Okay. Now this is a method for us to read in a CSV file. We have other methods apart from read underscore CSV. We have read underscore SQL. We have read Excel and the rest of it. But for now, we are reading a CSV file, which is what we're going to work with the most in the class.